Hey YouTube, KaraTweak here, bringing you all an update to my Rocket Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for March 2023. I've been wanting to update the Rockets for a good while now. I've missed a couple chances with some of the newer support, and with the latest February 2023 ban list, we actually had Destrudo come off the list to 3, giving us just another dragon option to use in the deck to utilize an easy to special summon monster to give us more special summons in the deck. I also missed out on a couple cards from the Ghosts from the Past 2 set, so I at least wanted to add those into the deck profile as well, giving us some more special summon options for the Rocket deck altogether, focusing more for all the different Rocket monsters we can run, which is what makes it more different than Dragon Link. I would say Dragon Link goes for more of the Chaos Dragons and all that. This is going to be more of a deck that focuses on the playstyle of summoning out all the different Boro monsters using the many different Rocket monsters. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters. For our Rocket monsters, we're running 3 copies of Rocket Tracer. This is the only Rocket monster we run at 3, just because it's probably one of the best ones in the deck. You can target quick effect, 1 face-up card you control, destroy it, and if you do, special summon 1 Rocket monster from your deck, except for Rocket Tracer. Also, you cannot special summon from the extra deck for the rest of this turn, except for Dark monsters. You can only use this effect of Rocket Tracer once per turn. So with this card, you have an easy special summon, because you can even target Rocket Tracer itself for the destruction and special summon of just another monster onto the field. But using this card is also your main go-to for it being a tuner monster to summon out your Borreload Savage Dragon, which will make full use of all the other different Link monsters that we run in the deck. Additionally, for the fact that Rocket Tracer is a level 4 tuner, and then many of your other Rocket monsters are also level 4 monsters. I also run 2 copies of Rocket Caliber. For this card, you can special summon this card from your hand to a zone a Dark Link monster points to. You can only special summon Rocket Caliber once per turn this way. And you contribute this card to special summon 1 Dark Dragon or Machine monster from your hand except for Rocket Caliber. You can only use this effect of Rocket Caliber once per turn. So another setup card, being able to at least give you access to more and more Rockets in your hand, which if you set them up in the graveyard, if your opponent has more monsters than you do, giving you easy ways to special summon them onto the field with cards like Boot Sector Launch. And just once again, with the field swarming you want to do with all your many different Rocket monsters, an easy special summon from your hand if you use Boot Sector Launch to special summon just 2 different Rocket monsters on the field to begin with. We're also running 2 copies of Magna Rocket Dragon. All of the other Rocket monsters that I'll be talking about share the monster effect of being able to special summon a different Rocket monster after it's been destroyed by battle or card effect at the end of the turn. And when they're targeted by a Link monster's effect, you can destroy this card and then use an additional monster effect. With Magna Rocket, when it's targeted, you destroy it and then send 1 monster on the field to the graveyard. So beginning around a lot of many different card effects that your opponent may have by just sending their monster to the graveyard instead of destroying it, making it so if a monster can be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can just send it to the graveyard with Magna Rocket to get around it. Also running 2 copies of Auto Rocket Dragon, having the same card effect as Magna Rocket Dragon. Auto Rocket Dragon just sends a spell or trap. Being a level 3 monster as well, doesn't really affect much of the play style, aside from some of the, Synchro and Xyz plays we may need to go for with our level 4 monsters. But Auto Rocket Dragon, having lower stats as well, but just another better target for your special summons and resources, being able to out many different spell and traps in the deck, is why we're also running 2 copies of this card. For some of the one-ofs for the Rocket monsters, I'm running 1 copy of Metal Rocket Dragon. With this card, when it's targeted, quick effect, you can destroy it, then destroy all of your opponent's cards in the same column of this card. So it's all about setup with Metal Rocket Dragon, knowing where to place it if your opponent has a good number of cards in that 1 column for you to destroy. Also 1 Anis Rocket Dragon. This one stops an opponent's monster effect and also make it unable to be able to declare an attack. So also just a complete shutdown of that monster on the field. And we're also running 1 copy of Silver Rocket Dragon. When a Link monster's effect is activated, the target's face-up card, destroy it, and then you can look at your opponent's extra deck and banish 1 card from it, just taking a resource away from your opponent. 1 Shell Rocket Dragon, with this card being able to destroy 1 monster in the column of this card, and then destroy any monsters in the adjacent zones as well. So if you have the setup with your opponent, Shell Rocket can just take out 1 of those monsters and then 1 other additional monster. And then for some of the other different card effect Rocket monsters, we run 1 copy of Rocket Synchron. This one works pretty well with cards like Absol Router Dragon, which we'll get to in just a second. When it's normal summon, you can target a level 5 or higher dragon monster in your graveyard, special summon in defense. So another way to get into our synchro play, or just field swarm again for our cards on the field. One rocket recharger for the last of the rocket monsters that we run in the deck. If a dark monster you control that was special summoned from the extra deck is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard, target one of those destroyed monsters, and special summon one dark monster from your graveyard with a different original name than that monster. And it basically gives you targets for some of your other rocket monsters you may have in the graveyard to gain their additional destruction effects on the field. Now, for some of the newer monsters that I say new, but they did come out back during Ghosts from the Past 2, I'm running 2 copies of Outburst Dragon. If you control a monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, then destroy all other monsters you control. Also, you cannot special summon monsters except dark monsters while this card's face up in the monster zone. And once per chain, during your opponent's main phase, you can quick effect immediately after this effect resolves. Link summon one Dragon Link monster using materials you control, including this card. You can only use each effect of Outburst Dragon once per turn. So the main play with Outburst Dragon is for you to just get a swarm of different rocket monsters onto the field, special summon out Outburst Dragon, and then destroy all those monsters, gaining all of their card effects during the end of the turn, setting you up with more monsters in the graveyard, or even just if you destroy them and you have cards like Boot Sector Launch, giving you less monsters than your opponent, can also mean you can use those resources that were destroyed by special summoning them back onto the field if your opponent controls more monsters than you, while still getting the special summon of those monsters on the field, and then also setting up a bigger Link monster on the field, while still also be able to utilize Outburst Dragon's effect to Link summon a Dragon Link monster during your opponent's turn, getting out some of your bigger boss monsters to go up against your opponent during their own turn, and not seeing which one you may bring out. I also run 2 copies of Abso-Router Dragon. Now, if you wanted to run a 3rd copy of this card, you can always drop the number of outbursts. I really feel you only need 1 of this card if you were to run a 3rd copy of Abso-Router Dragon. But with your Outburst Dragon just being another target for cards like your Rocket Synchron as well on the field. Abso-Router, if you control a rocket monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if it's sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 rocket monster from your deck to your hand. Being another searcher, even if you just send it to the graveyard with cards like your Dragon's Burial, you have more of a search power. I say Dragon's Burial, but Dragon Shrine. I mixed Foolish Burial and Dragon Shrine for these 2 cards, but just being another special summon on the field, since all we need are effect monsters to summon out our Boral monsters also. And I also run 1 copy of Double Disruptor Dragon. You can banish this card from your graveyard to add 1 Rapid Trigger or Heavy Interlock from your deck or graveyard to your hand. I don't run the Ritual monster in the deck, but we do run Rapid Trigger, so just having a searchable fusion spell card in the deck, and also being able to tribute this card to target 2 rocket monsters in your graveyard just gives you another special summon on the field, because you can then just normal summon out your Rocket Synchron, summon out Double Disruptor Dragon after it's been sent to the graveyard, then tribute this card, and then target 2 rocket monsters with different names and special summon them onto the field. I also run 3 copies of Noctovision Dragon. When your opponent activates a card effect that targets a face-down card you control, you can banish this card from your graveyard to negate the effect. And if a Dark Dragon monster is special summoned to your field, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if it's sent to the graveyard as Link material, draw 1 card. So another setup card on the field, giving you draw power, and then just easy special summon every time you Link summon on the field to begin with. With the last of our dragons, I run 1 copy of Collapse Serpent and 1 Wyver Buster for more easy special summoning by just banishing these monsters on the field. And for the other monsters new off the ban list, 2 copies of Destrudo. I know it's at 3, just testing out the 2 copies because there's a chance while it's in the graveyard for you to have it be called by the grave by your opponent. So at least with 2 copies, you'll have 1 additional one to potentially send to the graveyard to use for a special summon. And then as for our spell cards, probably one of the best spells in the deck, is Quick Launch. You just special summon 1 rocket monster from your deck, but it cannot attack. Also destroy it during the end phase. So this can just give you easy access to one of your best rocket monsters in the deck, summoning out your Rocket Tracer on the field, and then just being able to normal summon out another rocket monster to destroy with your Rocket Tracer. I'm also running 3 copies of World Legacy Guard Dragon. When this card's activated, you can target a level 4 or lower dragon monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand, or special summon it, and once per turn, you can target a dragon monster you control, move that monster you control to another main monster zone, making it so you can move around your zones, because link arrows are pretty important depending on the setup for your Boral monster that you have on the field. I also run 2 copies of Dragon Shrine. If you wanted to run 1 copy of Foolish Burial, you can just swap out 1 copy of Dragon Shrine because it is a once per turn. So at least then you'll have both the searches with Foolish Burial and Dragon Shrine, but it's player preference there. It doesn't really pop up often, but just when you do see it, you wish you would have the 1 Foolish Burial play. And then for the one-ofs, one Boot Sector launch. This card is searchable off of Striker Dragon, so then you can just use this card to add it to your hand. That's why we only need one copy of Rapid Trigger. You fusion summon one fusion monster from your extra deck by destroying fusion materials listed on it from your field. It can only attack monsters, but still destroying those rocket monsters means you'll have the effects of those rocket monsters after you use them for fusion material. One Squib Draw for more draw power by destroying a rocket monster we control. One Boral Regenerator for another special summon of a rocket monster from our graveyard. And then also, if it's sent to the graveyard because the equipped monster is destroyed, you get a draw. And then lastly, one Monster Reborn, just another special summon resource for us to use in the deck. And now moving on to the extra deck for the 3 original Boral monsters. I run one copy of Boral Load Dragon, one copy of Boral Guard Dragon, and one copy of Boral Sword Dragon. All of these different Link 4 dragon monsters give us more of a defensive playstyle, offensive playstyle, or just the generic playstyle that Boral Load Dragon is meant to provide, being more offense and defense for both. So depending on the play you want to go for, you also have the Link Arrows to match and the bigger boss monster to go with. You have Boral Sword, which can't be destroyed by battle, Boral Gar, which cannot be destroyed by card effects, and also Boral Load, which neither player can target it with monster effects. So a different type of protection depending on what you're going up against with your opponent. I also run one copy of Boral Code Dragon and one copy of Boral End Dragon for the Link 3 and Link 5 options. Also just for the additional targets for your cards on the field. And then also being able to, with Boral Code Dragon, banish this card from your graveyard and banish one Dark Monster with 3,000 more attack from your field. And special summon one Topologic Monster from your extra deck onto the field. So depending on what Topologic Monster you may also want to run as an option special summon using this card. I also run one Striker Dragon. This is for the Boot Sector launch search. And also one Quad Boral Dragon for more special summoning of our dragon monsters. And also being able to destroy a monster on the field by discarding a card. One Triple Burst Dragon for more offensive attack plays against your opponent. And we're also running one copy of Heretic Seal of Heavenly Spheres and one Saryuja for more of the generic special summon and options to bounce your opponent's cards using both of these monsters. For the Topologic monsters, I run one Topologic Trizbana and one Topologic Zeraboros for the banish plays that both can provide, and for the fact that you can easily special summon them off of Boral Code Dragon as well. And then for the non-Link monsters, I run one copy of Boral Load Savage Dragon for the Synchro plays, one copy of Boral Load X Charge Dragon for the Xyz plays, and also just being able to special summon a Link monster to have it point to this monster on the field, and the Boral Load Furious Dragon for the fusion play of being able to summon out this card onto the field while also being able to have a powerhouse of quick effect to target a monster you control and one card your opponent controls, destroy them, and with that target gaining the additional rocket monsters we have on the field for their card effects as well. As for some of the go-to plays in the deck with the setup that your Quick Launch can provide, just being able to summon out your Rocket Tracer onto the field, that takes your special summon, and then you will have the Rocket Tracer be destroyed at the end of the turn, so remember that. So then if you gain the additional summon of one of your other rocket monsters, let's just say through a normal summon, you can then use your Rocket Tracer to destroy that card, giving you another special summon onto the field for a rocket monster. It could just be a differently named rocket monster. Then you'll have the end phase effect of your Magna Rocket Dragon, and then from there you can go for the Link 1 play, and then that can special summon out your Striker Dragon onto the field. The Striker Dragon will then give you the search for your field spell, Boot Sector Launch, which you can then summon this card out as well. And then there you can go for the Link 2 play using your Rocket Tracer and your Striker Dragon, which you can then use to then go for the Quad Boral Dragon. With this card, discarding a card and target one face-up monster on the field, you can destroy that monster. You're also locked out of level 2 or lower monster for the rest of this turn. Destroy the targeted monster, and if it was a Link monster, you can special summon any number of rocket monsters with different names from your hand or graveyard up to its Link rating. So then, with this card, you can either destroy your opponent's card. If it was a Link monster, you get the extra bonus there, or you can even just destroy the Quad Boral Dragon and then special summon back more resources from your graveyard onto the field. And then from there, you have 2 monsters on the field, along with the fact that you could have the Boot Sector launch. So going for your next play, you could go for a Boral Load Savage Dragon and then equip on the Quad Boral Dragon that you went for onto that card as well, giving it 2 markers. And then, like I said, it all depends on if you're going second. If your opponent has more monsters than you do, thanks to that, you can use the Boot Sector launch to summon out as many of those monsters onto the field for you to use as that resource. If you have cards like your Outburst Dragon in your your hand as well. You will destroy your other monsters, so be wary of that, and you may want to wait before then to go for the Outburst Dragon special summon. If you already have the resource for your Borreload Savage Dragon on the field, you may want to go for that play beforehand, and like I said, that play will revolve more around you setting up those other monsters on the field, not going for so much the extra deck play, but then special summoning out your Outburst Dragon, destroying all of the rocket monsters, and if they had the special summon play at the end of the turn, you'll gain those additional special summons on the field of those different rocket monsters, and then being able to use Outburst Dragon during your opponent's turn to go for that additional link summon of your link monster of choice. Going for cards like Borreload Dragon cannot be destroyed by card effects when a link monster points to it, and you can only use each of the following effects of it at the start of each player damage step. If it targets a link monster using 3 monsters of material and battles an opponent's monster, you can destroy all those monsters on the field, and with it you also have access to a Topologic monster as well when you can banish this card from your graveyard, giving you a resource if your opponent does clear the field out to at least get one of those other monsters on the field for you to use. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed it. I always love updating the Rocket deck. It's a lot of fun, and it's just more of a fun take on the whole Dragon playstyle that Dragon Link went for, being able to utilize the Rocket monsters more for this deck altogether. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.